Well, hello everybody. I thought I would do a series of videos for you guys talking about my ponderings as I look over some footage that I've been taking with the horses playing, because there's a lot to learn from watching the horses. And in this first video of doing these videos, I wanted to talk a little bit about when Lena and Gracie were running out together and then kicking. So let's just quickly watch this through.
Lena's free. Whoa, they almost connected hooves there.
There. That's it. That's what I want to talk about. So I'm just going to back it up kind of quickly here. And it's kind of funny watching them go backwards, but there's actually something to be said for being able to get into the editing program and play with the video and go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. You can see an awful lot of stuff. And so I'm just going to explain how I take my videos. My videos are taken with, for the majority of the time, taken with either a GoPro or I have a Canon DSLR that I use, sometimes with my phone. If I take it with my phone, I take it at 30 frames per second. If I do it with the other cameras, I take it at 60. So most of the horsey playtime is actually at 60 frames per second because I have one of the other cameras. If once in a while I'll just have my phone with me, and that's all I'll have, so it's at 30. Now, the reason that's important is because you're always watching the videos at 30 frames per second, which means I'm getting rid of half of the frames when I go put it on the internet, which means that while I'm editing and while I'm looking at these things, I can actually slow things down by half and not lose any quality, which is fantastic because 60 frames per second is double what 30 is, and 30 is what you're watching. So you have to get rid of half. Now, what does that mean for us? So that means for us, as I go through this slowly at half speed, it's still really high quality. We can still see everything that's going on. Now, the interesting thing right here is how Lena was probably thinking about going for a roll, and Gracie was coming up behind her. And that didn't work well. So right here, she's sniffing. Gracie's coming up, and right here, she says, I'm going to deal with this particular Arabian. And her head comes up, her front end comes up, and out comes her back end for a double barrel. Gracie avoids that, which I thought was really interesting. If you watch Gracie's feet a little bit, as she's coming over and she sees those two legs coming up, her back right leg really digs in, and she makes a hard left-hand turn. But what was really interesting, or I found really interesting, is that she didn't leave. She then decided, I mean, that's a pretty long distance away. Obviously, Lena's not going to get her. Gracie's very quick. But Gracie sort of doubles down and stays the spot there. You can see them both kind of going into the same position where their front end comes up and they prepare for their double barrel kick. And this is exactly how all horses double barrel kick. They've got to prepare. They got to get the front up, which then allows them to get the back up and sort of put all that energy into their stomach, so they contract and then expand out and use their back muscles. You can see how flat they can get on top. And look at this shot of Lena way up in the air. I mean, this is sometimes some of the joy of working through these videos and saying, how does this happen? What do I want to look out for? How do I want to be able to predict these things? You know, what's going to be going on? And it's almost always for safety purposes because I want to stay alive. And I want to be able to predict when a horse is going to go after a person or another horse. Anyhow, so Lena does another double barrel. And Gracie, look at her. She's way up in the air. I think she probably went higher than Lena. Lena's a very big horse. And we'll just go forward. And just as here's Lena's extension to here. And just as Gracie's feet are coming in, Lena's are going back. And they miss each other. And I found this fascinating for many reasons. One is, if we just go backwards for a second, is that Gracie didn't just leave. I mean, nobody wants to see those two big hooves coming at you, but she thought maybe she would have a butt-to-butt fight. And it does happen. Some horses will just kick each other's butts for a little bit, and the strongest one rules, essentially. And they tuck their tails in and keep themselves very protected. You see how Gracie's tail is all the way in, Lena's tail is all the way in. And they'll just go about kicking back and forth, and the strongest one lives, or the strongest one doesn't leave. And but just a second here, I'm going to, let's see, let's come back to here. I'm going to count out the amount of times we go through frames. So we go from the point that Lena's head comes up, Gracie's head is coming up. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So the point that Lena's feet come off the ground and land back down is half a second. Because we're going through this frame by frame. We know it's 60 frames per second. So that amazes me. That amazes me that a horse moves that fast. If we look at it again,
3.
1, 2,
Whoa,
3.
they almost.
I mean, that's very quick. And of course, Gracie left. She hasn't quite left. She still hangs around with Lena. Lena's still telling her to go away. So it's not a butt-to-butt kicking contest.
It's a close one, but they don't.
And so there's kind of three things that I found just fascinating. One is that Gracie wanted to have a butt-to-butt kicking. Two, they almost hit each other but didn't, and I want to know why. Is it a fluke, or is this kind of planned out? So we just roll this back again, right? Like, why didn't they hit each other here? I've seen horses hit each other's hooves. Roni one time had a very bad accident, or a very bad injury, because he was kicked in fetlock, probably doing exactly this. And these two didn't. I mean, Gracie really went all out. She stretched all the way. You can see her legs coming all the way out. Look at the way her back foot sort of flops backwards, too. Both of them. They sort of snap in. We can really, really see Lena's going all out. She says, there's no way. You better get moving. And Gracie leaves, of course. Her tail between her legs, which is where that saying kind of comes from. So I find this stuff really interesting because there's lots of questions to ask about when horses kick. When they kick, do they know exactly how far they can reach? Their timing, their location. I don't think that a horse's eyesight is very good behind them, especially for depth, because generally they're only going to be able to have one eye on where that object is, because it's behind them, so they have to move their head one way or another. So there's a lot of questions here. And oh man, it just amazes me that they didn't connect right there. If Lena didn't pull back at the timing that she did, they would have connected. If Gracie had been a little bit quicker, they would have connected. For sure. I don't know what kind of damage it would have done, but they didn't. So anyway, something to ponder. My ponderings. I'm going to release a few of these videos, and hopefully you guys find them interesting as well. Something to think about. We'll talk about if you want to. Anyhow, that's it for this one. That's what I wanted to show you guys in a back and forward and slow motion, and talking about time and horses' ability to do these things. It's kind of amazing. So that's it for this one. I'll see you guys in the next one.